Where am I? Is this a dream?
Yes, Bazarov, this is a dream. There is nothing to be afraid of. I just had a few questions I wanted to ask you. Would you kindly answer the questions on my mind? First of all, what does nihilism mean to you? Could you explain?
Of course. For me, nihilism is the act of exposing the inherent meaninglessness of life and questioning all deeply rooted, imposed values. Traditional beliefs, stereotyped morals, and dogmatic thoughts blind a person and block the path of a free mind. I act in the light of reason, scientific truths, and experience. This means that no fixed, universal truth or value exists. Everything is open to questioning and criticism. Nihilism is, in fact, an effort by a person to construct their own existence and environment on the basis of objective reality, rather than on a web of lies and myths. No ideology, love, or mystical attachment is as reliable as the data provided by reason. One must interpret life through one's own experiences and observations, never yielding to accepted norms or stereotypical thoughts. Such a perspective is actually the guarantee of freedom, because only by tearing down the old myths and meaningless legends can a person truly become the architect of their own life. For me, nihilism is a liberating awakening that demolishes all these false values and invites a person to reach their true potential.
But can science really tell a person how to live? In other words, does science have the capacity to draw inferences about value judgments?
Science itself does not impose a way of life. It merely reveals truths and facts. The ability to produce value judgments lies outside its domain. The power of science is in shaking existing dogmas by presenting objective data. In light of these data, a person should use their own reason to freely construct their life and values. That is, science does not directly answer the question of how to live. Rather, it offers the opportunity to question and reconstruct all kinds of previously accepted values.
Is it possible to freely produce values using your own reason? After all, we do not choose our value judgments and the desires that come with them. When I think of constructing something freely, I think of a very wide spectrum. For instance, a person might not find it valuable to count every blade of grass in a garden. Although we may have different values, we cannot ignore the fact that there is a general pattern. Within these limitations, how free can we be?
Freedom does not mean being completely unbound. We are born into pre-existing patterns of human existence. These patterns represent the limits imposed on us by society and nature. However, it is also possible to understand these limits, question them, and reconstruct them with our own reasoning. Yes, we cannot avoid some patterns. There are absurdities, such as counting the blades of grass in a garden. But the main point is that instead of blindly accepting these general patterns, one should notice the underlying mechanisms and, in the light of reason, produce new values. In short, freedom is not about completely escaping all limitations. It is about creating one's own meaning within the existing constraints through questioning and the free will granted by reason.
You speak of creating one's own meaning, but can a person really create their own meaning? Could you explain with examples how this is possible?
A person is born within certain patterns. Society, tradition, and even nature impose certain limits on us. However, this does not mean that a person cannot create their own meaning. For example, in literature and art, every new movement emerges by breaking down old cliches. A writer can reject the legendary narratives of the past and build an entirely new world by examining the contradictions and voids of modern life. An artist, by opposing the beauty standards imposed by society, produces unique works following the path of their inner world and individual experiences. Similarly, science shakes dogmatic beliefs by presenting objective data. In the light of this data, a person gains the opportunity to question accepted truths and reconstruct their life with their own logic and experiences. In other words, through free thought, By breaking old patterns and engaging in a continuous process of criticism and questioning, a person can confront the meaninglessness of existence and embark on the path to creating their own meaning. This is not an abrupt or simple choice. It is a process that requires continuous struggle, awareness, and reassessment.
When we speak of an artist who rejects the old and creates their own values, is it really a matter of rejecting the old? Or is the artist constructing a new variation, perhaps an improved one, upon the old? After all, what is constructed as new is also subject to certain limitations.
Rather than completely rejecting the old, the artist's task is to confront it, reveal its weaknesses and limits, and then construct a new variation on that structure through inquiry. Completely eliminating old values would mean also denying the truths underlying them. Therefore, while the artist criticizes and challenges old patterns, they must also accept the limitations they bring. However, this is not merely a repetition of the old, it is the emergence of a freer and perhaps richer form of expression built upon its critique. The new structure, of course, is subject to certain limitations, because nothing can be built entirely independent of human existence. However, the main issue here is to be aware of these limitations, question them, and overcome them when necessary. Nihilism advocates for the demolition of fixed and dogmatic values, opening a space where reason and critical thought can reign freely. In this process, the artist continuously experiences the tension between the old and the new, and through the contradictions created by this tension, a more authentic form of expression emerges.
That will be all for today, Bazarov. Thank you for joining me. You may return to your sleep.